Jeffrey Clark, who was fully committed to corrupting the DOJ on Trump's behalf.
When they raid your house, they take all your electronics, and they're parking black vans outside your house, and they're following you sometimes, and you know your communications are being monitored. You know, it can tend to have an impact on you. I think they expected me to cave, but I couldn't, I won't, and I will never do that.
I'm excited to talk to Jeffrey Clark again. I'm excited to talk to people who are victims of an evil regime and are standing up and being brave about it. Joining me now, former U.S. Assistant Attorney General. He's now a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America, Jeffrey Clark. Jeffrey, obviously that's a little trailer for a documentary you have out now. For those unfamiliar with the Jeffrey Clark story, I would hope people who watch this show are, but for those who don't know what you've been through, what have you been through?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Jesse. So in a nutshell, it's this. I was an assistant attorney general nominated by President Trump in 2017, went through confirmation hearings where Al Franken and Dianne Feinstein and Sheldon Whitehouse tried to take me out, but failed. And they held me up, though, for a record 14 months. And I finally took office on November 1st, 2018. I ran the Environment Division and spearheaded a lot of President Trump's energy policies in the courts to keep them safe from interference. I mean, there are all these leftist groups that try to deindustrialize America through that mechanism, and who also try to interfere with our military readiness by, getting injunctions to shut down military activities and military training activities. So it was important work. And I was so successful at it, actually, that there are 7 litigating divisions at the Justice Department. And as a result of my successes in the time I was in the Trump administration, I was given a second division to run, which added 1,000 lawyers to my under my rubric. So that's 1,400 lawyers total, the civil division. And in that capacity, in part, and just because President Trump reached out to me and we wound up in meetings with Representative Scott Perry, I wanted to look more deeply at the 2020 election and irregularities and fraud in that election than any of my other colleagues at the Justice Department wanted to do. And so I proposed a particular strategy on that, aspects of which are privileged. I have 2 letters from President Trump's lawyers instructing me to take executive privilege, lawyer-client privilege, deliberative process privilege, and something your viewers, listeners may not have heard of, which is law enforcement privilege. And so I have to honor that. But parts of the story have become public. The January 6th committee came after me. They had a whole dedicated day attacking me. There were first sealed proceedings in the DC bar that came after me. Now they're public. And then Fani Willis indicted me last August, along with President Trump and 17 others. And so, I've been facing that criminal case. I've been facing the bar. And until recently, I was named as one of the, not named, I was one of the unnamed co-conspirators and unindicted co-conspirators in Jack Smith's DC case against President Trump. But after the Supreme Court immunity decision on July 1st, Jack Smith saw fit to drop me out of that. So the 2 arenas I'm still battling in are in Georgia State Court with Fani Willis and with the DC bar here in Washington, D.C.
Did you have your home raided?
I did. That was in June of 2022. My house was raided, and you're seeing some of the footage of that now, and then the interview I did with Tucker Carlson about that. And it's clearly was coordinated because the very next day after my house was raided by DOJ, the January 6th committee did their focus hearing attacking me. The entire hearing was my former colleagues at either the White House counsel's office or the Justice Department attacking me and arguing there's no basis for investigating the 2020 election, which is laughable.
Okay, so this sounds like you're being treated as a criminal for working in an official capacity. I guess from every layperson like me who doesn't understand all the intricacies of the law, how is any of this legal? They can't just kick in your door and raid your stuff because they're angry about January 6th, right?
Well, you would think that's right, Jesse. That's a very good lay understanding of it. And I think, it accords with the Supreme Court's understanding after the immunity decision, which is why Jack Smith had to drop me out of his superseding indictment. But they certainly tried to come after me. And look, I still don't know why they granted the warrant to come and take all of my electronic devices. Indeed, I still do not have, 2 1/3 years later, my 2 iPhones back that they seized. They returned my other electronic equipment, but they did not, like computers and laptops, thumb drives, et cetera, but they did not return my 2 phones. And I still don't know why, because they won't show me a copy of the affidavit of what their basis was for raiding my house in June of 2022. Still totally unknown.
Okay, let's shift gears. That's just a beyond frightening case. I hope people are aware of the implications of all this, but let's shift gears and speak a little bit more elaborately about the DOJ and the FBI, because the problem is we have an institutional trust crisis in this country, and it's reached such a level that I'm not positive it can be repaired. 2 different times someone's tried to assassinate Donald Trump, and the American people are forced now to wait with bated breath to hear what the FBI has to say about these things. I'm sorry, Jeffrey, I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust the DOJ. I don't trust anybody in the federal government. I hate where that is. I hate that I'm there, but as soon as they speak, I assume it's a lie for political reasons.
I can't push back on that super hard, Jesse. I think, notwithstanding the fact that there are pockets of people who are still uncorrupted, I think that they've weaponized the hiring at both Main Justice and in many of the U.S. attorneys' offices and in the FBI. They brought in DEI people who believe in wokeism, people who only think that one side of the political spectrum and competition in America is the valid side. They think of domestic terrorists. All the domestic terrorism investigations they open are against conservatives. Occasionally they try to do something that's equal opportunity so that they can say that it's not only an operation directed at conservatives. They've gone after Catholic Latin mass goers. They've gone after parents in school boards. They've weaponized the National Security Division of the Justice Department and their counterparts in the FBI to go after the parents at school boards. I was at the Justice Department when 9/11 happened in my first stint there as a political appointee for Bush 43. And I'd been there, like a week, 2 weeks when that happened. And, then the Patriot Act came, and then we got the National Security Division made the 7th division of DOJ's 7th litigating divisions back around 2006. I was there, for these things. And, to imagine that they would be turned inward on the American people and on conservatives is just, it's mind-blowing, but that's where we are in America in 2024.
That is where we are. All right, I can't let you go without asking about Kamala Harris and her career, because she's been obviously lampooned as being a lightweight in various ways, certainly an intellectual one. So she's out there telling people that she's a prosecutor, one of these hardcore DAs who's been throwing the bad guys in prison. Jeffrey, you did some digging into this. What did you find?
Well, I ran, Westlaw searches, and, if you have access to that database, and any major media operation should be able to get that access and to run the searches themselves. Never ran it, never asked her for any proof of which cases she had actually first chaired as a trial lawyer prosecuting criminals. All of that I've seen is a Politico article by a reporter named Eric Hay, H-E. And I corresponded with him a bit. He was kind enough to tell me what he'd done. He does not have any transcripts of her having tried a case. He says he's reviewed them, but he's kind of a little vague about them. I'm trying to see if I can find access to those transcripts. But when I ran the Westlaw searches, there's no evidence that she was a lead trial lawyer on any criminal prosecution in California when she was in the DA's office, when she was the DA herself, or when she was the Attorney General. And, there's also no evidence that she appealed, argued any appeals, briefed any appeals. There's no evidence that she worked on any habeas corpus cases. It's just a giant empty black box.
DA to AG, and she never tried a case. That is something else. Jeffrey Clark, my brother, you come back anytime, and we wish you the best in all your struggles with the government. Never tried a case. The woman's entire life. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.